Today, we're taking a look at this entry-level Swiss-made quartz dress watch from Tissot. This dress watch is from the Tissot's Heritage Collection. Tissot says their Heritage Collection translates nostalgia into contemporary timepieces dedicated to detail. This is the Tissot model number T118 41011057000. At the time of this video, you can find this watch online at Amazon for $228 US. Nordstrom Rack currently offers the white version for $209. Hey everyone, welcome back to Eric's Everyday Watches. As always, if you like this video, if you find it helpful, please do me a favor, hit the like button and consider subscribing. Tissot never disappoints with its packaging, not even at this price point. On the outside, we have a white sleeve with the logos on top. Spinning the box around, we see a progression of all the logos they had, starting with the one back in 1880. That's kind of cool to see. I love that. Sliding off this top sleeve, we see a bright red box with a T and plus sign embossed into the top. Tissot uses the plus sign to symbolize Swiss quality and reliability. Removing the red portion of the box, we see not only the watch itself, but this pop-up display. And you gotta admit, that's pretty damn slick. It is a pop-up of the Tissot headquarters. How frickin' cool is that? As I mentioned, Tissot never disappoints with their packaging. And last but not least, of course, we have the watch itself. A lot of companies would take their $200 watch, throw it in a standard box, and call it a day. I believe Tissot understands packaging can be more than just utilitarian. It can create excitement, anticipation, and increase the perceived value of not only this particular watch, but of their entire company. It is an attractive watch with an old-time distinguished appearance to it. The case is 316L stainless steel. The diameter comes in at a modern size of 40 millimeters, not including the crown. On the side, we have a lug-to-lug distance of an easily wearable 47 millimeters. This watch has a simple high-polished finish to it, and the finishing seems consistent throughout. The lugs have a nice, elegant, curved shape to them, and they taper as they get near the case, giving it the appearance of being even slimmer than they actually are. And that high-polished finish matches up well with the end of the Milanese bracelet. The height of the lugs flows into this bump out on the side of the case effortlessly, and everything is nice and smooth to the touch, exactly as you'd expect from Tissot. There are no sharp edges or corners anywhere on the case. On the side, we see a nice downchin to the lugs. Not that it's actually needed on this size of a case, but it does add to the overall classic appearance. And you can see that this watch is meant to be worn under a dress shirt with a thickness coming in at 11 millimeters. Turning it over, on back of the watch, we have a snap-on case back with text that reads sapphire crystal, water resistance 30 meters or 100 feet, stainless steel, and of course, the Tissot logo. And inside that case, we have the Swiss-made ETA caliber F06.111. Now that is an older movement. It is a three-handed quartz movement with a date feature. It has 0 joules, an end-of-life battery indicator, and it is a sealed unit, meaning that it is built for replacement, not repair. The crown at the 3 o'clock position is signed with the Tissot logo, and it is approximately 5 millimeters in width and 2.5 millimeters in depth, which keeps things nice and close to the case and is fitting for this style of watch. There are no crown guards here. It is a simple push-pull crown, and pulling it out to the first position sets the date, pulling it out to the second position sets the time. Now let's talk about the face of the watch. Starting on the outside, we have a white minute track printed directly on the dial, and at the 4 compass point, we have applied Arabic numbers in a metallic treatment, as well as applied metallic indices at the other hour marks. Now those indices have a 3D quality to them, with their highest point being the center and angling down towards the dial. The result of which means that the light will often shine brighter on one side than the other, adding a bit of visual excitement. Now, another thing about those indices is they do appear longer than your average indices, and they do come to a point towards the center of the dial. Personally, I like the way they point your eye towards the minute and the hour hand. Now that minute and hour hand have the same bevel to them, with the center being the highest point just like the indices. The hands taper down starting at the center post towards the indices, and just like those indices, the hands do a great job of catching and reflecting the light. The running second hand is more than long enough and extends well into the minute track. On this particular watch, that second hand hits the minute ticks dead on about 95% of the time. At the 12 o'clock position, we have Tissot printed directly on the dial in a light gray color. And down at the 6 o'clock, we see the words Visodate and Swiss made. The date at the 3 o'clock position is white on black, and it is very easy to see. In my everyday use, I had no issues with legibility. The date window is outlined in a metallic treatment matching the indices and the Arabic numbers. Now, it's a very small detail, but if you look closely, you'll see that the date window is not only outlined, but also has a beveled edge. And it is these small details that elevate the overall feeling of a watch and makes it feel more distinguished, in my opinion. On a dress watch, there's not a lot of design elements to work with, so it is nice to see Tissot paying attention to these small details. The dial on this watch is a cool tone black color and offers plenty of contrast against the metallic indices and hands. Tissot says there is a slight curve to the dial and mimics the domed crystal. Whether or not that's the case, I personally cannot tell, but I do think the end result is an attractive looking and handsome watch. Now, just to point out the obvious, this is a traditional dress watch, meaning there is no lume on the dial or hands, and I think that is absolutely fine and appropriate for this style of watch. You do get a nice domed sapphire crystal with this watch. The Milanese bracelet on this watch is 20 millimeters wide at the lugs, 2 millimeters thick, and tapers down to 18 millimeters at the sign clasp. That clasp is fixed in place and does not move up and down the bracelet as you might see with some other cheaper Milanese bracelets. Here, once you open the clasp, the bracelet feeds to the inside closest to your wrist as opposed to the outside. There are grooves built into the other side of the bracelet for the clasp to fold down upon. Now, in my everyday use, I did find that this made it harder to put the watch on. And I was frustrated the first time I attempted to do so, but the second time it was a little easier, and I think you see where I'm going here. Fair to say, it is a bit of a learning curve, but if you're going to be putting this on and off every day, I'm sure you'll get the hang of it. Just know what to expect going into it. So let's go over the specs for this watch. We have a sapphire crystal, a quartz movement using the ETA F06.111, a diameter of 40 millimeters, a thickness of 11 millimeters, a lug width of 20 millimeters, and a lug-to-lug distance of 47 millimeters. Let's wrap up by going over the pros and cons. For pros, it does come with a sapphire crystal. It is Swiss made. You get the aesthetics. I do think it is a classy looking watch. It is very legible, and it does come with a good fit and finish. For cons, it is using an older movement, which is sealed, meaning that it is replaceable, not repairable. And that bracelet clasp combo does require a bit of a learning curve. So my final thoughts on this watch is I think this is another respectable entry-level watch from Tissot, and the pros, in my opinion, outweigh the cons. This has been Eric from Eric's Everyday Watches, reminding you to buy the watch that you love. And don't pay any attention to what anybody else says or thinks. This is your watch collection. If you like this video, if you find it helpful in any way, please do me a favor, hit the like button and consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next video.